love Pinterest and you want to work from home, becoming a Pinterest manager could be a great fit for you. In today's episode, I'm going to share a success story where I am interviewing one of my students who is currently being coached inside my Pinterest Manager Academy. Now, my Pinterest Manager Academy is my 6-month program where I am coaching and helping my students start their Pinterest management business from scratch. Now, maybe you are just coming across the term Pinterest manager, you didn't know that was a thing, or maybe you've done a lot of research, but you're still feeling apprehensive about starting your freelance business and if this could be a good fit for you. I really think it helps to hear other people's stories and really identify with their experiences, and it really helps us visualize what this could look like for us, especially if we're wanting to create an additional income stream, or maybe we're wanting to transition out of our current career that's maybe no longer serving us and where we are in our life. So I think this story is really going to inspire you. I want to encourage you to go ahead and like this video, follow me or subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and let me know what questions you have about starting your Pinterest management business. I do want to mention that I have a few different resources for you where you can learn more. I do have a secret podcast that really gives you the behind the scenes of what it looked like for me to essentially get to 5-figure months as a freelance Pinterest manager, only working part-time hours because I do have little kids at home. So you can check out that secret podcast that is linked below. And I also do have a few other free resources as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and hear what Annie has to say so far with her experience as starting out as a Pinterest manager.
Hello there. I am so excited to go live. I feel like it's been a while since I've gone live, but I am going to be sharing I shouldn't say I'm sharing. I'm going to be chatting with one of my amazing students inside the Pinterest Manager Academy. So in case you don't know, I'm Emily Vales. I'm a Pinterest marketing expert and coach, and I love having some of my students come and share their success stories because if you follow me, you know I share a lot of Pinterest marketing advice for business owners, but also a lot of information about starting your Pinterest management business. And I think one thing that really helps us identify with others, but also help us kind of see ourselves in other people's stories is hearing those stories and what other people are experiencing from this career. So I am so excited to have Annie, one of my students, join me. So bear with me So we're just going to be chatting very conversationally. She's going to share her journey. Annie is a former teacher, and there's Annie. Yay! Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, of course. Okay, so I already introduced myself, and I was kind of explaining, the academy, and also, why I have people come and share their stories. And I just think it really helps people, identify with others and, see that this isn't something that just worked for me 6 years ago, but is working, in that obviously Pinterest is still an amazing platform. So I would love for you, though, to introduce yourself and just share more about your background and kind of how you came to Pinterest management and that decision-making process too, that this would be a good fit for you.
Yeah, sure. So I was a middle school teacher for 7 years, and I worked at a really great school. I loved it. I loved so many things about teaching. Like, I really had no intentions of leaving teaching at the time that I did, but I did have a baby about 16 months ago. And so when I had my son, I went on maternity leave for honestly quite a while. It was like 7 months or so. So I took a few months of unpaid time off, and I really loved being at home, but I was so excited to go back to work. Like, I really missed having, my structure, and as a teacher, like, your classroom is like your own little world that you're in charge of, and it's a great place. So I did get back to work, but I really quickly realized that things just felt a lot different once I was back, knowing that I had my baby at home, and I wished I could be spending more time with him. And I also just realized I can't give 100% to my students and my family the way that I used to be able to before I had a baby. And so I felt really torn going back, even though I was so excited to continue working. And I worked with so many women who were these amazing working moms. Some of them had like 3 and 4 kids and were like still doing amazing at work, at, teaching. And I just kind of was like, I don't think this is really what I should be doing right now. And so I went back last November. That was when I returned to school. And just within a few weeks, honestly, I was kind of looking for other options. So I did end up teaching the whole entire school year. I left at the end of June, but like before I found you, the only things that I was kind of seeing online for other options, besides like just getting a part-time job somewhere, which I didn't want to do because that was like the whole point, is I wanted to be flexible. The stuff that I was seeing online was all for like general virtual assistant work. And I really thought I could kind of go that route, and I knew I had a lot of skills that I could be a virtual assistant to a business owner. But the thing with that is like, you could end up doing literally anything, like any tasks, and it's a really wide range. And so thankfully, kind of before I ended up getting any clients for that, I was just starting out, and then I discovered your stuff because I was searching something about Pinterest. And so I didn't realize that I could just do Pinterest work. Like I thought there was no way that I could get a bunch of clients who only wanted Pinterest support. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So luckily I found you when I did, and that's kind of when I decided to just take this leap. And I've just been like mind blown that so many people need just Pinterest support, or maybe they have other people doing other things, but like you can really just do one kind of like task or platform instead of needing to help with a million things and kind of being like a catch-all.
Yeah. And I kind of went through the same thing because I started as a virtual assistant, but I knew that ultimately a great way to scale your business was to focus on one platform. But, I guess I struggled with like knowing where to go, who to learn from, and I kind of went what felt like the safer route. But to your point, it's hard. It's really challenging to be given a lot of different tasks and feeling like you're wearing a lot of different hats and maybe like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And that's not to say that that's, I have virtual assistants and they're amazing and I need them. But at the same time, I think it's about finding something that's in alignment for you, and you have so much self-awareness. And I will say, so with Pinterest management, because I think that is something that people are wondering, like, is there really a need for this? Are there really clients out there? And you know me, I like to be transparent. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. And one thing that is so, inspiring to others I know in the academy, but also to me too, was, as somebody who not just helps educate and train Pinterest managers, but also wants to coach them. You have to be coachable, and like you have to show up and you have to put in the work. I always say I can't make anybody do anything. And you have just been such an action taker. And I guess, as far as like you mentioned, there are a lot of business owners that just do need Pinterest, and there is a lot of opportunity out there, but it also, it is a challenge to get clients too. And I like to be transparent about that. So I would love for you to share what you've done. And, it didn't just happen overnight. You've been very consistent, and what that looked like for you as far as acquiring clients and how you felt about, and the challenge of getting those clients and what that's looked like.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting to see all of the women who join the academy. Like, we all have such different backgrounds, and I feel like some of us have a lot of experience with like Pinterest and like that whole world of blogging and all that stuff, and some come in with zero and they're also super successful. But I feel like I had a lot of benefit kind of coming in because I actually used to blog a couple of years ago, and I used Pinterest for my blog, and that was the part I enjoyed doing the most. So when I was kind of searching for these like work from home opportunities, and like something in me was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was just working on it for myself, and I loved it. But once I saw that I could actually do that and like make money, that's kind of when I found you and I dove all in. But so I did come to the academy having like almost 2 years of experience marketing on Pinterest for myself and blogging and all of that. And so I felt like I had a really good handle on what it looked like and kind of the longer term, like looking through the analytics and just like what it was like to work on the platform for like many months at a time. And so I did try to use that obviously to my advantage. Like when I was talking to people about Pinterest, like I did have, you know, several months of experience I felt pretty good about. But then I joined your academy and it really did kind of like solidify a lot of the things that I learned early on, kind of on my own through like random tutorials. Like I was literally piecing together a million things for free, you know, and I had, you know, what I learned out of it. And it just felt so comfortable and like peaceful learning it all in one place from you. And a lot of it was like things that I had learned, so I felt really good about that. But then there were so many new things as well. And so like to get clients kind of early on, I think I joined in February, like middle of February. I did get my first client in March, but it wasn't doing the full scope of Pinterest. It was only pin design. And I was working a lot of hours for this person. And so it did fill up a lot of my time, but it was great experience, like great relationship. We don't work together anymore because she just like ended up going a different way with needing other things. And that's fine because now it's freed up so much time for me to get these other clients. So I do have 4 clients that I work with right now. And I've really just gotten them since like the beginning of June, I would say early June. Wow, it's September though already. That's crazy to think it's been a couple of months.
I know, I keep losing track of time. I can just relate.
I was like, oh, that was just last month, but no, it's been a couple of months now. But yeah, so I used like my background with Pinterest and learning everything else from you, putting it together. I did do a lot of cold pitching, but honestly, the 3 recurring monthly clients that I have right now are all from your hiring form. So that's been just an amazing resource. I feel like that was one of the things that kind of sold me for wanting to join your academy too, because I would see you post on your story. People would say like, I got another client from the hiring form, like I got another discovery call. And I was like, there's a lot of opportunity here. You know, you're not just kind of like sending us off into the world and saying good luck. It's like a lot of support along the way. And the resource of the hiring form has just been amazing. So I've gotten 3 of my clients through there. And then 1 was from like pitching through a Facebook group basically. And then I have a couple more that have said that they want to get started soon. We just haven't kind of like hashed it all out yet, but those have been through cold pitches. So I feel like I'm kind of trying all the avenues and just seeing what works the best, you know, and they've all been honestly working. So it's been great.
Yes. Well, and you know, that I feel like sometimes people feel like there's like a magic trick or something to landing clients. And I think that's the biggest concern. I think a lot of people are confident that they can learn the skills. And, you know, I will say that having some experience and some background, I do find that people move a bit faster. Of course, I created the academy so that if you don't have any experience, you will still be successful. Right. But I do think that it just clicks a little bit faster. Obviously, you know, especially like in your circumstance where like you had used it, you had a blog, and it's so cool too to see you use that expertise and kind of really set yourself apart, because I know for one of your clients, aren't you also helping her with blogging services as well?
Yeah, so that was something that I was like, I always kind of knew I could offer like a package with both, but I really just didn't put it out there to clients at first because, you know, like with really just kind of starting everything up, I wanted to just focus on Pinterest, but I always knew like I could add that on. And then when we were on our discovery call, she was like, you know, I know I have to blog, I just don't want to do it. And so I was like, well, I can do it. And then I added on the additional price, and she's now like paying double what all my other clients are paying. And so I'm definitely going to start offering that more, because I think, like, I think I told you this before, I had no idea that people would really pay, you know, multiple hundreds of dollars for upwards to like $1,000 for these types of services. But a lot of businesses just don't bat an eye at it. Like, they know it's necessary and they will pay for it. And so I think that's another reason why I never wanted to like put together a package with blogging, because like no one's gonna pay for this. That's so much money, and it's really like not in the eyes of a business owner who knows how valuable it is. They are definitely willing to pay for it. And so I think that's also helpful If you have another skill set to like pair it together, like I know someone else does Etsy services. I don't know anything about Etsy, but like I can do blogging. So if you're pairing other things together, I think a business owner is more likely to want to go with someone who can do those like related multiple things. I'm not talking about like several other things, but like I was mentioning with general VA, but I think it makes sense for the business owner too to not have to outsource to like multiple different people if they don't want to do it themselves,
Yeah, I think that's such a good point too. And one thing you mentioned that I'm so glad you did is you were focusing on Pinterest, and this opportunity presented itself. But I think one thing that people can fall into, especially in the early stages of their business, is getting distracted by, trying this, trying that. And it kind of feels like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. And one thing that's so nice about the Academy is like, you're focused on this one service, developing this expertise. And, I've seen that's exactly what you've done. And when there was an opportunity that presented itself and, it just kind of came about, but it wasn't like you were trying to just, like you mentioned, offer all these other services just to get paying clients, but they are very complementary. And what you've done is really created a premium package, and it also sets you apart. But you did the foundational work. You understood how to market on Pinterest. You had Pinterest specific clients. And it's kind of like you listened, or like, you waited for that opportunity to present itself, and the timing was right and it made sense. And another thing you said that I'm like, oh, that's so true, is I think that one thing that's really hard about having a service-based business is feeling like you're always fighting, exchanging time for money. And with Pinterest, because your services are based on packages, not only will you get faster, which is like a built-in pay raise, but then when you're offering more premium services, the business owner becomes far less concerned about how much time it's taking you. They are paying you for your expertise and essentially what you're giving back to them, which is a lot of time, because I know a lot of business owners do not want to blog, but they know that that could be helpful to their business. And also they get very frustrated with Pinterest because it does have a lot of nuances, and it's not just something where you can throw up a couple of pins and it works. When I see people are like, I posted like 100 pins and I'm making all this money from affiliate marketing, I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I think that they don't want to take the time. And it's not even, with a business owner, like they have their zone of genius. So it's about finding somebody where Pinterest is their zone of genius. They love it. That's what they are focusing on. And that's what a business owner is getting out of hiring a Pinterest manager. And so a lot of times business owners, I know, speaking for myself, when I find somebody who can do something that I not only don't know how to do, but I don't want to do, it makes you feel a lot differently about the money. And it's, with you offering those two things, I'm sure that's like a huge relief. And like you said too, with not having to hire multiple people, it's really convenient. And once again, though, those things are very complementary, and it just, it makes sense. So that's something that I was so excited that you were able to find somebody where that worked. And now that is something that if you find a need, especially through talking to business owners, then, you can offer that. So, And one other thing I wanted to mention that you had shared is, you have been open to finding clients and trying different avenues. I think that there's a lot of different methods for kind of going back in our conversation for finding clients. That is something that people get so stuck on. And, to me, that is so amazing that, you had the one client. I know they took up a lot of time in March. You were also teaching full time. And I remember in June, I think you said, you said my goal is like, by the end of summer to have 4 clients. And of course, obviously it's crazy that we are in September, but I'm like, oh my gosh, you're there. And it's crazy though, Annie, even just the hire form, it still requires effort. Yes, you're given that resource, but it still requires effort on your end to still utilize that resource. So as far as making this happen, and it didn't obviously happen overnight, like you enrolled back in the winter, but you've consistently shown up, and obviously it's paid off. What would you say, how did you balance that with working full time, but still, putting in the work and prioritizing that, so that even though you did decide to leave your job in June, you you had this foundation that you couldn't have just created overnight. It was like you were ready to step on the gas, but you'd been putting in that work. So I, would love to hear how you were able to balance that with also having what now a 16-month-old, but when you think back multiple months, less than 1-year-old. So how did you do it all with working full time?
Yeah, I felt like it was the best option to really attempt, kind of give it my all, even though I was still teaching. Because I knew, like I said, early on when I'm back in the school year, I was mentally kind of accepting okay, I'm just going to finish out the year and then I'll do something else. Because I wanted to continue to make money, obviously, and have something that was mine that I can be excited about and work hard at, but on my own time. I knew that was such a big factor of this. And so then when I mentally committed to leaving at the end of the school year, I knew that I had to kind of do both until that happened so that I could have a really seamless transition. And so my husband and I just knew that we kind of had to balance things out. I would get up a lot of days before my son would wake up in the morning, and I would work before school. I would work through all my lunches at school, and I would stay after school usually to work on all the Pinterest stuff. And that was when I did have the one client that I was working a lot of hours for, but I was also really mindful of I need to be doing all the work on my end to get more clients, because I obviously knew this one isn't going to last forever, and it's not going to, pay the bills months down the road. So I knew that I just had to squeeze it in and make it all fit in my day. I would stay up after my baby went to bed too, and just continue building all the parts of the portfolio that you help us build. And really, I think I was actually cold pitching before I joined your academy, but I didn't really know how to cold pitch very well, so I didn't get any progress there. And then when I joined and was ready, probably about a month or so in, I was ready to really dive into the Facebook groups and network through there, and then do a lot of cold pitching once I learned how to do it better from you. So I've probably only sent 150 cold pitches, which is really not that much over 6 months, I know you and other people always speak on it takes a lot of volume, and that's normal and totally okay with me. But I have gotten tons of good responses through them, and I've actually had probably 5 or 6 or 7 discovery calls just through the cold pitching. And then a couple people, like I said, have said yes, but we're not totally set yet. So I'm not really counting that, but I'm just saying that I knew at the time that I had to do the work while I was still teaching in order to have a good transition. And I've mentioned this in our Slack group chat several times, but I'm getting people who are coming back to me 3, 4, 5 months later who are saying yes. The girl who I just got started with the other day, we chatted back in May or June, and now she's a paying client. So I feel I just knew all those months it was hard work, but I'm this will be coming back to reward me in the summer and in the fall. And I think that's important mindset to have. It sometimes can feel you're just sending a million messages into the void, but it's gonna turn into progress and then success later. And I found that multiple times, and I just think that's a really good positive mindset to continue on with.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I kind of shared this when we were talking in the coaching channel, but you were planting seeds, and it's really hard to feel it's not growing or bearing fruit immediately, especially when I think when we get started, we're so excited and we want results obviously quickly, but it does take time. But when you also think about this being a new career, it won't have even been a year until next winter.
Yeah.
So just think about where you'll be then. But at the same time, those first few months can feel like such a grind. And I love that you shared that, because I know you're 150 pitches isn't that much. That actually is a lot in terms of, I know the amount of effort it takes, and of course you could do more, but if there's a lot of people who do a lot less too and expect a lot of results. And the fact of the matter is that it requires work, and you are proof that you absolutely will be successful, but those things take time to build. And you were building those relationships and networking, and it's coming back. And it shows me too that, like you mentioned too with that client, you mentioned, I didn't think it was going to last forever. And that's the thing is you have clients that come and go, but now that you have really built up this base and now you're, having other things turn into discovery calls or that are in the works, it just shows you too, like I said, you're never going back to zero.
Right.
You never have to start back over. And that's one thing that I share with people, especially when they are worried about client acquisition, is that the hardest part in the beginning, I feel like, is like, it's such a hump. And it's crazy that you enrolled in February and then you got your first client in March. That doesn't usually happen. Usually that's the biggest hump.
Yeah.
But to get where you're getting 3, 4, 5 clients, and then because you have been putting in the work, you start having more discovery calls. And then if anything, you're like, okay, I got to make sure I'm balancing all of this still too, because I still have client work to do. So it's kind of also figuring out that balance where you're focused on marketing your services. And I'm not talking about like on social media, but I shouldn't even say marketing, but like networking and building those connections, whether it be through Facebook groups, reaching out to people, leads in the hire form, or continuing to cold pitch, because that kind of builds that base. And then if you do lose a client, like that kind of comes with the territory. And, when you have that base, then you don't have to, stress out, but you have that consistency. And for me too, it was, then I started getting to a point where you get referrals, and then I would like wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, somebody booked a discovery call with me today. And so, I'm seeing that in you though, where you've built this amazing base, and it didn't just happen overnight though, and you've been so consistent. And I love you sharing that because it's really inspiring to others. And like you said, sometimes it feels like you're just like shouting into like the void, and you're like, nobody's listening or paying attention. This isn't going to happen, and it does turn into, amazing clients and opportunities. But that part in between though it's so hard. But I also, in your story with not, going back to the classroom, but then feeling like that isn't ultimately what was going to continue to serve you and your family. I feel like having that motivation it's really helps to get over the challenges too, and thinking about like your bigger, why. So I guess when people are thinking about starting their Pinterest management business and feeling like, can I do this? Does it really work? Do you feel like you have advice to address some of those like concerns, or what other people might be thinking, or maybe what you thought too before you enrolled? Because anytime you do something, I tell people, I'm like, I can't give you guarantees. I can give you the foundation, the coaching support, what I feel like everything you need to be successful, but there's no guarantees. So, what would you say to somebody who like feels really nervous about that, but also really wants to like start their Pinterest management business?
Yeah, I feel like when you say like no guarantees, I feel like the only way that you won't be successful is if you just don't do the work, because like there's so many people, probably like hundreds of people by now, have proven that if you just follow all the steps and like, do your best work and like really care about what you're doing and give effort to all of the avenues, like it can't not work, honestly. Like so many people have proven that it does work. And I think obviously, mindset and like your goals are really important with that. But I don't ever really remember feeling like, oh, this is never going to work for me. Like I kind of knew from the start, after seeing you share so many success stories, it just inspired me to like, yeah, this is going to work. Like I just need to do it. I'm just going to sign up and do it. And so I guess I was never truly like doubtful. And I don't really, I don't really know if the people who sign up for your academy are actually doubtful. Like I think we're all ready to just do it and go for it. And so I feel like somebody who might be on the fence, like, maybe continue to do a little bit more digging and research to like see if you'll enjoy it. Kind of like poke around on Pinterest more and just see, but it's going to work if you just do this process and actually put the effort in. And I remember hearing once on a podcast a while ago, it was like for getting clients for a different type of business. The person says like, once you get the actual ball rolling, it just rolls away. Like you can't stop it. And you have to put so much effort in at first to like push the ball down the hill. And that would be like all the cold pitching and like just everything that we do those first few months of the academy, which is self-paced, but like you can choose to do it really quickly. And then once that is going, it's like, it just spirals away from you. Like you said, you can just get referrals. And I mean, it feels like it's gone successfully down the road without trying as much now. Like you put in a lot of effort at first and you make it work, and then it just is going, and then it's great. So I just feel like if you have any bit of that feeling inside of you where you have a reason to want to make a change, or just try something new, it's a lot of fun. Like it's something that's completely your own, that you have control over, and like you get to decide you get to make all the decisions and like make it what you want and work as much as you want. Then if you have that like drive inside of you, it's just going to work. There's just no way around it. That's my opinion.
I love that. One thing you mentioned too that is such good advice is I think that it's okay and totally normal. Like I always want to validate people's feelings, whether they're feeling nervous or frustrated. Like that comes with the territory. Like, you know, we see this one side on social media of like, this is what I get to do, and like I get to be at home with my kids. And even with my business now, there's challenges, and I try to be transparent about that. Like it's not always rainbows and sunshine, but of course you're choosing your heart. And you know, I would much rather be at home and have challenges than be away from my girls, which is ultimately why I started my business, and have that challenge. And you know, what you said about if you have any doubt, like maybe do some more research, because I do think that you have to have that gut feeling like, I want this and I'm 100% in. And I think if you feel doubtful, you're not 100% in, and that's okay. But you do have to be 100% in, because, you know, I try to tell people that when I'm chatting with them one-on-one, like I'm giving 100% to my students, but you have to give 100% too, because I can give you all of the tools, the resources, the coaching. But if you're not, you know, committed to it, it's not going to work. It doesn't, you know, happen by doing nothing. And I think that sometimes people feel like once they enroll, something is magically going to happen. And it's like, no, it's so unattractive to say like the work is just beginning. And of course, like people want to be sold like the dream of like working from home, part-time hours, you're making this money. And that, yes, can be your reality, but it does take effort. And I love that analogy too with the balm. Like you said, it can feel like it's putting so much effort in, but you're so right. Once that momentum is created, you know, and I've tried to share that with people too. It's like, I think even, of course, it's not where you want to be with just, you know, getting that first client, but even that, it's like each client, each new like barrier you break through, you're kind of validating that to yourself too, that you can do that. But that was so good though, what you said about, you know, if you feel doubtful, like maybe you're not ready yet, because I don't know that I fully realized that about you too, where you're like, I never actually doubted this at all or worried about it. Like I knew it could happen. It's just like a matter of time. But that's what I try to tell people. And it seems so simple, but it's the truth. And I think that sometimes I didn't even fully realize that, like, maybe people just are still feeling doubtful. So anyways, I'm like, oh, that's so good. So, okay, I know that you've got 4 clients, you've got some more in the works. However, you're amazing, and I would love yes, you're welcome. And I also want to thank you too for taking time out of your day to share more about your experience, because I know that even, you know, inside our tight-knit academy, that your success is inspiring other people. And it's one thing, you know, people hear from me and I post things on social media, but it's also nice to hear people who didn't start 6 years ago, but are starting now and are leaving their job, making this happen for themselves. And so I want to just thank you so much for sharing your story and what that's looked like for you. And also because a lot of people who are interested in starting their business, they don't feel comfortable quitting their job. And I would never tell somebody like, you need to quit your job to do this. You know, you have to do what's right for your family and also what's financially responsible. And when the time was right for you, you know, you were ready to close that door. And so like I said, I just want to thank you for sharing your story and what that's looked like for you, because I know that you've inspired people in the academy, but now other people too with sharing this. So I know, like I said, you're amazing. I would love for you to share where people can connect with you. And if you are open to taking new clients, like, I want to share this, with my audience, and also how they can connect with you. If they would like to chat with you about, your Pinterest services, or also doing Pinterest and blogging, and, what you're open to.
Yeah. Great. So I have a website. It's Annie Russell, RUSSELLVA @gmail. That's my email, but then my website is .com. And so people could go through there, and it does explain like a lot of the kind of the basics of like what is offered through Pinterest services. I feel like some people have absolutely no idea like what all the pieces even mean. Some people just kind of want Pinterest to be part of their business, but they like truly don't even know what all the little details are. So I try to kind of lay it out, but then obviously the best way to go through that is through a discovery call to just really chat about like what it means and like what is the difference between some of the pin types and the descriptions and like all the things and how they really impact each other. So I would go ahead and just take a look at my website first, and then you can book a call straight through there. There's a few different places it's linked that we could chat just like this about what it all means and like how it's going to help you. I like to be really transparent on discovery calls about like I show different like screenshots of like what is normal and kind of like what I've experienced as far as like growth and exposure and all of that, and some examples of what my pins might look like. And so I like to kind of go really in depth through those calls with people, especially if they're new to Pinterest. So that would be a good place for people to find me with my website.
Perfect. Okay. So I will be sharing that. And so people can connect with you if they want to chat with you about your services and how you can help them. And I just want to thank you again for taking time out of your day to chat with me and share your story. I really enjoyed, chatting and hearing more.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I remember watching a couple of these before I joined, and like I think it, like you said, hearing from the real people who are just starting is really impactful, because it's like we're starting from nothing, and so many of us are seeing growth and success. So I think it does really just share the reality of it, and that you can make it happen in a relatively quick amount of time. Like you said, it's a couple of months in, less than 6 months, less than a year. And just kind of imagine where it's going to go from here. So thank you for letting me share my story.
Yes, of course. All right. Well, I will be sharing all of your information so people can connect with you. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Annie.
Bye.
Bye.
I love interviewing my students inside the Pinterest Manager Academy because everybody's journey looks different, everybody's experience is different, and as I mentioned earlier in this episode, I think it really helps to hear other people's stories and help us visualize what this could look like for us and with our future. Plus, there's always something that I learned from my students and what their experience has been. And one thing that Annie said that was so powerful is that she didn't have any doubts when she was starting this business. And I truly think that that has made all the difference in the world to her success, and really her unwavering belief that this is obviously something that she wants to do and she was going to make it happen. And she really released some of those preconceived notions that we all have in regards to timeline and when we think it should happen for us. Those timelines can be so challenging because we do see and hear other people's success, and we think, oh, this should happen in 2 weeks for me, or this should happen in a month, or at least 6 weeks. And if it doesn't happen exactly on that timeline, it can make us question everything sometimes. So I hope that Annie's story was encouraging to you, and I have multiple other success stories. I will link those in this episode, and feel free to let me know what questions you have. I would love to share more with you if you are interested in becoming a Pinterest manager, or if you just want to learn more about how to market on Pinterest. I have lots of different episodes for you. So I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you soon in next week's episode. Bye for now.